If I could have everyone's attention, please. We would like to begin our planning committee. Just as a reminder, we audio and video record our meetings. So I will ask that the board remember to please push your button when you have something to say on the record and push it when you're finished, because we do have a limited microphone capability. So we don't want anybody to be left off that has something valid to say. And with that, I will turn it over to Planning and Administrative Chairman Fuentes.
Thank you. Good morning. I'd like to call the Planning and Administrative Committee to order. Secretary, please call roll.
Director Durante.
Here.
Director Fraga. Here. Director Hobson.
Here.
Director Pang. Director Ross. Director Totten. Director Fuentes.
Here.
We have a quorum of 4 present with 3 absent. If the record would also show that Directors Buchanan, Colson, DeWitt, Lewis, McGallis, Melvin. Director Troiani, are you on the phone?
I am.
Okay, and Director Troiani filling out all the necessary paperwork, and Chairman Dillard are also present.
Thank you. Next is the approval of the minutes for the meeting held on October 15th. Are there any questions or concerns? Director Fraga?
I move that we accept the
Thank you.
minutes.
Second, Director Durante, Secretary. It's been moved and seconded. Please call roll.
Director Durante?
Aye.
Director Fraga?
Aye.
Director Hobson?
Yes.
Director Fuentes?
Aye.
4 ayes and 3 absent.
Thank you. Next is an ordinance approving a time extension for the Innovation, Coordination, and Enhancement Projects, ICE. ICE. Jill, I guess? Yeah, thank you.
Mike?
Thank you. Sorry. Good morning. I'm going to turn this over to Joe Basha, the Divisions Manager for Grants Management.
Thank you, Jill. Good morning, Chairman Fuentes. I'm Joe Vasha, Division Manager, Grants Management. Today, staff is seeking approval for an ordinance providing time extensions for 3 projects. Before we get into the details of this request, let's begin with a brief report on the status of the Innovation, Coordination, and Enhancement Program, or as we commonly refer to it as ICE. The ICE program was launched when the RTA Act was amended in 2008. In September of that year, thank you, Audrey. In September of that year, the first ICE program of projects was approved. Since that time, there have been administrative changes to the program, but the basis of project selection has remained. Projects are screened on a collaborative basis with the service boards to assure that they promote innovation, coordination, and enhancements to the public transit system and are in alignment with RTA's strategic plan. From 2008 through 2015, 64 ICE projects were awarded. Almost 2/3 or 41 of those projects are completed or underway. These projects are shown on the chart as dark blue for complete and amber for in progress. As can be expected, the 23 projects that are in the programming stage, shown here in light blue, were awarded in the latter years of the program. Awards for ICE projects to date amount to approximately $78 million, with $46 million, or 59% of that amount, approved in 2014 and 2015 and included in the RTA budgets of 2015 and 2016. These ICE capital and operating projects help to provide support to a number of major transit initiatives in the region. Among those initiatives supported in part through ICE include the development and implementation of the open fare system. Projects have included establishing point-of-sale terminals, support for the mobile application, and Ventra vending machines. Another major initiative includes electronic signs. These projects are designed to make real-time information available to the region's public transit users. One example, pictured here on the right side of the slide, is of bus shelters that are located throughout Chicago. ICE funding has also been used to fund new pilot services or bring services back throughout the region, like the Shuttlebug routes, holiday buses, and the Ashland Express and Western Express bus services as examples. Lastly, I would like to move now to request your approval of the time extension for 3 ICE projects. The CTA's Customer Information Displays project that includes the installation of digital customer information displays and non-digital displays throughout the system was delayed because the site originally designated for the last of the installation had to be changed. Metra's Metra's Visual Information System Installation Project includes signs that are located at station platforms throughout the Metra system. These signs display text messages and line announcements. This project was delayed due to Metra staff vacancies and a longer than expected time for manufacturing the signs. Metra's Blue Island Vermont Street Station Interagency Transfer Improvements Project included the rehabilitation of the station and the incorporation of interagency signs. A change in the architectural firms working on that project led to a delay. The ICE legislation includes a requirement that projects must expend ICE funds within 2 years of a project's inception, unless the RTA, by the affirmative vote of at least 12 of its directors, waives this limitation. This deadline may be waived an unlimited number of times, provided that each one-year extension is approved by an affirmative vote of 12 RTA board members. The requests from CTA Metra are for time extensions only. No additional funds are requested. This concludes my presentation. I would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Any questions? Director Fraga?
What firms were involved? Architectural firms?
I don't have the name of those firms, but
I'd
I'm
like
sure
to
I can
find
get
out,
those.
please, Leanne, if I could get the information. Why was there a change?
I know there was an issue and they had to change firms. I don't know the details.
I'd like to know
Okay.
what firms and why they were changed, and what was the compensation for the firm that was removed.
We'll get that information for you.
Thank you.
Director Melvin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Any change in costs here? Any increase in cost because of the delays? Thank you.
No.
Okay. Director Hobson?
Looking at the program status graph that you had on previously, I'm actually surprised at how long some of these projects have been programmed and how long some of these are in progress. Is this the case that some programs that are put forward are simply just money grabs? Hey, we don't really have a project in place, but we want to grab that money and have it available, and that's why they end up expiring, because they really didn't have a program in place, versus we have a good solid program, we need money, once we approve money, the program begins.
I think in most instances, some of these projects just require further refinement by the service boards. The graph also may be a little bit misleading in as much as what I've graphed there is when the project was awarded. After they're awarded, we then issue a contract. It takes some time for the service boards to, go through procurement process, et cetera.
Yeah, they approach us when the project's a concept, and because this is kind of an innovation kind of area, so they kind of come up with the idea, and there's a lot of, like Joe just said, a lot of work that has to happen once we say, yes, you can go and do this project now. So it's still being sort of thought through, the details of it, then they've got to do their whole procurement process, all of that stuff. So it's very sort of front-loaded in that sense.
Okay. Director McGillis?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a comment I had is that the ICE program's been around for a long time, and when I thought, built the controls in to bring it back to our board was when they were going to ask for more money to carry the program over into a multiple year. That makes an extraordinary vote requirement. That makes sense. This is a process that we've already approved the ICE funding. They've stayed within the dollar amount. What they're asking for is an extension of time to complete it for various reasons. I don't recall that being a requirement that it would take 12 votes to approve something like that. So could you Nadine, I guess, or something?
No, that is what the statute requires.
So the statute actually requires to move the amount of time as well for a 12-volt.
I think the idea was that these projects would be completed within a finite period of time. It's supposed to be innovative and something new and different, and that when extraordinary circumstances demand that time be extended, that we do come back and inform the board and get your.
Because it would be really a problem if you couldn't get 12 votes on something that you've already obligated and you're midway in the process. It made more sense to me when we did it, when it was a request for more funding or to continue funding it at the level for another year. That seemed, so anyway, you're saying that's the state law. Okay, thank you.
Frega?
My question is, the firm that was removed, is there any, let's say, penalties assessed against it, or what was the reason it was removed? Is it disbarred from any other bidding, or is it just forgotten about?
Again, I think we have to get back to you with that information. We don't have those details.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, is there a motion and second to approve the ordinance as submitted? Moved by Director Ranney, seconded by Director Frega. Secretary, you want to call roll again, please?
Sure. Director Durante?
Aye.
Director Frega? Aye. Director Hobson?
Yes.
Director Fuentes?
Aye.
4 ayes and 3 absent.
Thank you. Next is a presentation on the Integrated Mobility Management Program. Michael.
Good morning, directors. This morning I'll be presenting a recommended new vendor to operate the ADA paratransit and travel training programs and help the RTA implement our Integrated Mobility Management Program, our new approach to service delivery in the department. We'll be asking for approval of a contract with MTM Incorporated during the board meeting, but we wanted to present this item in committee in order to allow the opportunity for the board to ask questions and better understand the board agenda item. First and briefly, I want to give some background for context. RTA is responsible for operating the ADA paratransit certification, travel training, and reduced fare and ride-free programs. Due to ongoing growth in customer demand and future projected growth, we need to look at new approaches to program service delivery in order to efficiently and effectively work with an increased number of customers. Since April of 2015, I have been briefing this board on the research that the Mobility Services Department has conducted to arrive at a new approach to service operations. So I'll just simply list a few of those research items for context. We performed an analysis of programmatic needs, an analysis of industry practices. We did site visits at 4 peer transit agencies. We performed analysis to understand how many and where our ADA paratransit sites should be located to best serve our customers. And we completed a site cost analysis. The point of all this research was to help us design a new approach to operations that will provide a higher level of customer service in the community. Our goal is to be more accessible to our customers by coming to where they live to assist them and understand the transportation options available to them. The first phase of this new community-based approach was implemented as the RTA Customer Service Center, which assists customers with the reduced fare and ride-free programs, is now co-located at 4 City of Chicago locations. This decentralized our customer service center operations from the 69 West Washington address and brought the centers closer to where our customers live. Today, we are asking the board to approve a contract that will allow the RTA to move in-house tasks within the ADA paratransit certification and travel training programs to a vendor. This will benefit the RTA because the vendor can scale staffing appropriately to meet projected increases in customer demand, and it will allow us to shift our internal focus to community education and outreach model that will place RTA staff called Mobility Outreach Specialists in the 6 counties to assist older adults and customers with disabilities with RTA program registration and providing education on transportation options within their community. Staff went through a very comprehensive procurement process to select the best vendor to become our partner. We developed an RFP with input from the disability community and several other stakeholder groups. We also obtained consultation from staff at Nelson Nygaard and Trans-Systems, who are well-respected transportation consultants that specialize in ADA paratransit certification and travel training. We sent out the RFP in September, And then we utilized a 6-member selection committee made up of staff from 4 RTA departments to score 5 proposals that the RTA received in response to the RFP. This process led to the recommendation that we have today, which is to authorize our executive director to execute a contract with Medical Transportation Management Incorporated, better known in the industry as MTM. MTM is a women-owned business enterprise incorporated in 1995 in the state of Missouri. They perform a wide array of services, including ADA functional assessments, travel training, customer service center operations, needs assessments, and appeals programs. Each year, MTM provides over 40,000 travel eligibility assessments, conducts more than 1,900 travel training sessions, and schedules over 10 million trips. MTM has operations in 24 states and in the District of Columbia. In Illinois specifically, beginning in June of 2015, MTM's affiliated company, Ride Right, assumed management of PACE's Kane County paratransit operations, where they serve the towns of Aurora, Batavia, Dundee, Elgin, Geneva, St. Charles, and Sugar Grove. MTM also serves 676,000 Illinois Medicaid members throughout the state. MTM provides ADA paratransit interview and functional assessments and travel training at several peer transit agencies, including TriMet, WMATA, Raleigh Capital Area Transit, and Kansas City Area Transportation Authority. Other systems where they provide similar services are listed on this slide and were provided to you in your board briefing. We contacted several of these agencies to perform reference checks, and MTM is highly regarded. The proposed contract term is 67 months beginning February 1st, 2016. The first 7 months of the contract will be for program mobilization. This includes build-out of 2 ADA paratransit assessment sites, hiring staff, and program setup. The remaining 60 months are program operations. The contract is for an amount not to exceed $25.9 million. $2.3 million of the contract expense is front-loaded for program setup and capital expenses, which by paying up front saves the RTA $152,000 in interest charges that would have been accrued if we paid the expenses over the life of the contract. After paying out the initial $2.3 million up front, on average, the 5 years of operation will cost the RTA $4.7 million per year. The RTA has sufficient funds in the 2016 budget allocated for this expense and will request the appropriate annual allocation through the regular annual budget process. Our finance department did a comprehensive analysis of the impact of this contract amount on the overall agency budget. They analyzed the projected cost to operate the entire mobility services department over the next 5 years if we did not change the model of operations, maintaining business as usual, but scaling up internally to keep up with the demand. In comparison to operating the department under this new model of operations with this new contract in place over the next 5 years. If we were to perform the department program operations as we do today and did not go forward with this contract, the department would need to hire an additional 18 staff over the next 5 years to keep up with demand, and the contract we have with the current vendor today would need to increase to meet projected customer demand. The cost to operate the department with this approach is projected to cost $70.7 million. This is not sustainable. However, under this new model, with the new contract in place, the department budget is projected to be $67.3 million over the next 5 years. This constitutes a $3.4 million projected savings to the agency. Most of the savings are the result of avoiding increases in internal personnel expenses and associated office support services that would occur if we did not change the program. The total DBE goal for this contract is 7% of the total contract value, and MTM has submitted their plan for meeting this DBE goal by using a DBE staffing agency. Many functions that we perform in-house today, we're moving to the vendor. Under this new contract, MTM will be responsible for leasing and managing the 2 interview and assessment sites, developing and managing a consolidated database, providing phone-based customer service, providing and maintaining the IT infrastructure for this program, processing ADA paratransit applications, conducting certification interviews and assessments, making recommendations and decisions for certification, providing our one-on-one travel training, and executing a quality assurance program. Many of the tasks that are currently performed by the RTA will continue, and those programs are operating our reduced fare and ride-free programs at the 4 City of Chicago sites, providing back-office fare permit management, implementing and providing a new community-based outreach program in the 6 counties, managing outsourced contracts, which include our fare permit production contract, our mailing house contract, and our IGA with PACE to provide trips to the ADA assessment sites. And of course, we'll be monitoring quality assurance for the MTM contract tasks as well. The RTA in-house program and tasks are projected to cost $41.7 million over the next 5 years, or an average of $8.34 million per year. This slide illustrates the composition of the major expense items within the RTA budget to operate these functions. Under the new contract, MTM has proposed a 2-site ADA paratransit certification model, and the sites will be located on the north side and the south side of the City of Chicago. These sites are located within the area our site location research indicated would provide the best overall average travel times for customers to get to their assigned site. As a reminder, customers who are interested in ADA paratransit certification only come to one of these sites every 4 years, and the RTA provides the transportation to these sites at no cost to the customer per ADA federal requirements. While customers are at these sites, transportation resource information and applications for other RTA programs will be made available to them. In between visits to these 2 sites, customers can work with the mobility outreach staff located in the 6 counties to get other program needs met until their next time that they would come to one of these locations. These maps on this slide show the locations from a regional perspective as well as from a city view. The contract that the RTA developed is a performance-based contract with defined high service standards and metrics that the vendor will need to maintain throughout the life of the contract. The level of service required exceeds the level of service the RTA could provide without greatly increasing program staffing and in-house costs. The vendor will be responsible for executing a robust quality management plan and providing regular in-depth reports to the RTA. The RTA will supplement the vendor's quality management efforts with its own efforts to ensure that the vendor is providing services at a level of quality that the RTA customers expect and deserve. The RTA will also perform audits on a regular basis to ensure that quality service is maintained and it's consistent from customer to customer. MTM and the RTA will both be conducting customer surveys to monitor customer satisfaction. However, with all this in place, if the RTA is not satisfied with the quality of service offered to our customers, we have language built into the contract that outlines the process for the vendor to correct any issues with contract compliance, and there are also provisions in place to terminate the contract at any time if absolutely necessary. On a different but related note, throughout 2016, while we're transitioning to this new model with MTM, we are still operating under our current model. This current model includes several temporary staff that we'll need to have that we've needed over the last several years to keep up with increasing customer demand. We will need these temp employees throughout 2016 as we wrap up the old model of operations. After 2016, we'll no longer need temp employees in the Mobility Services Department. Human Resources has also historically held its own temporary staffing contracts to fill temporary gaps in open positions across the agency. We decided this year to combine the temporary employee contracts for both departments into one large contract, and this ultimately resulted in a 17% reduction in pricing compared to previous years. While approval of this particular contract item will be requested during the board meeting, we also want to provide a quick briefing on this topic so you can understand our needs for this contract. Next steps. Upon board approval of this contract with MTM, staff will immediately begin working with them to begin program mobilization. There's a lot of work that needs to be done between February 1st and August 31st of this year. We need to launch the one-on-one travel training program, launch the mobility outreach program in the 6 counties, build out the 2 sites, set up a call center, develop a database, and full operations of this model need to be in place before September 1st because that is the date in which our current contract for the interview and assessment site expires. I'm happy to announce that Michelle Lucas from MTM's Chief Marketing Office, our officer, is here in the audience today if you have any questions for MTM. And that's the end of my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Director Durrani?
Yeah, Michael, in the graph, it says transporting customers to assessment sites, 29%. There are, by my math, 15,500 users of the system. What does that 29% represent? Since they only go every 4 years for an assessment, what is the number of that 29%? And what is the rejection rate when they go to the site for assessment?
Well, we have 60,000 people that are that are currently eligible for ADA paratransit, and every year we see an application volume of about 18,000 individuals that come into one of our sites for assessment. So that cost is the cost that we pay PACE to transport the customers to the ADA assessment sites, and that is an ADA requirement, federal requirement. Our rejection rate overall for the ADA paratransit program is about 1%, sometimes 1 to 2%, and the reason for that is that we have a really robust upfront screening process, so we weed out people in the beginning of the program rather than having them go through the whole process, which of course saves us money and transportation costs later.
Anyone else? Bruce?
Michael, a couple of questions. One, you talked about some of the performance metrics that are part of the contract. It's a 67-month contract, so in order for evaluation to be made of the performance, could you give an example of what some of those performance metrics might be so we can have a better understanding?
Absolutely. We have timelines in place as metrics for how quickly decisions have to be made within the ADA paratransit certification, for example. That's one. So we are by law required to do it within 21 days. We have to make a certification decision, but we have much stricter requirements for how many days we expect decisions to be made so that the customer is notified more promptly. In our travel training program, we have in place different metrics to say how long the customer has to wait to get their initial appointment with a travel trainer, for example, so that we can make sure the customer isn't waiting a long time for those services. We also have different metrics in place in terms of documenting service operations, call center operation metrics as well.
So they're mainly performance execution metrics. I mean, time to deliver those types of standards are what we're looking at?
That's correct, because we want to make sure that we have the highest quality service for our customers.
Okay, all right. My second and final question was around the issue of DBEs. I know the number is 7%. Could you talk a little bit about whether or not that number could have been 10%, or what are some of the challenges in terms of trying to make sure that that number is as robust as it might be?
Sure, thank you. Our DBE compliance officer here at the RTA does a lot of work with every contract to set the limit. Set the number for that contract specifically based on the tasks that are within that contract, because a contract like this that's operations, majority of the work is staffing, or expense, I should say, is staffing. So it's difficult to meet a higher DBE goal when all of your DBE opportunity is a staffing opportunity. So they analyze each contract individually across the agency to figure out exactly what goal should be set based on that contract. Did you want to add anything to that, Nadine?
No, it's a very aggressive goal for the particular services that are being provided. We looked at every single possible subcontracting opportunity to reach that goal.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I'm sorry, Director Melvin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would it be possible, if this is approved, for MTM to come back and tell us who the DBE is once they actually hire one?
It's APRO Execs, which is a temporary staffing company.
Thank you.
Director Clausen?
Yeah. How many in-house RTA positions are going to be eliminated as a result of outsourcing this?
Yeah, we will. For one thing, we're going to be eliminating 7 temp positions that we currently have. So that's one area we're going to be reducing in staffing. We've already lost another 4 employees over the last year in just natural attrition, so that we did not rehire those positions because we knew that this was coming. And there probably will be a few more positions, but that is yet to be fully determined, and we can definitely come back to the board and talk about that further.
Anything else? I would just like to add, I've been working with Michael on this, and I think his staff has did an outstanding job as far as the researching. Obviously, when you look at a $27 million budget item, due diligence is needed. And I think as you look at the growth of these programs, especially, given, 40% increase over the length of the contract, and the fact that we're mandated to do the certification within 21 days to keep up with the staffing, I think this makes all the sense in the world to outsource. So I'd just like to add that. Any other questions? If not, thank you, Michael. If there's no more further business to come before the public session of the Planning Administrative Committee, I will entertain a motion and second to adjourn. Moved by Director Durante, seconded by Director Frega. All those in favor? We stand adjourned.